Hey everyone, welcome to a very special Bourbon and Data Breaches. This week we're just going to talk about one story, and that is the Colonial Pipeline. So I'm going to get us kicked off real quick. For those who are not aware, which would be anyone living under a rock for the last few days, a cyber attack has shut down a major U.S. pipeline, a company called Colonial Pipeline, which fuels half of the fuel on the East Coast and goes from Texas to the Northeast, has been shut down from a ransomware attack. This has been a slowly developing story, but it started off where the ransomware got in. They took proactive procedures to make sure that the ransomware did not threaten the pipeline, so they shut down the pipeline voluntarily. Now, we then learned about a day later, so this was today, that we learned that DarkSide is taking the blame or the responsibility, or someone figured out it's DarkSide. Little note about DarkSide. DarkSide does not encrypt servers using the Russian language. So we don't know if DarkSide is state-sponsored, but they do not ransom anyone that speaks Russian. And continuing the development of this story, this has reignited the debate over ransomware payments. And the U.S., there's been various people in the U.S., officials that have said that you should not pay, and even questioning the legality of paying a ransom. So that's the story for today. Shu, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is pretty darn interesting. I was actually reading a little bit deeper into the information about Carbon Spider, or I guess they're called DarkSide now, which apparently this they're sort of blaming this as a or saying that this was, since this is a ransomware as a service now, that this could be just some random affiliate that used their tools to attack. Who knows what's true? DarkSide was saying that they have a lot of rules they abide by. They don't attack critical infrastructure. They don't attack people. But I mean, it's ransomware as a service. So basically, anyone can go about this. Is DarkSide responsible? Yes. Did they have direct involvement in this? If you believe them, then it's no, but it highlights ransomware as a service, that basically any actor can do whatever they want here.
I find it fascinating that as ransomware as a service, it seems like they've hard-coded in that their ransomware will not encrypt you if you're using the Russian language.
Right. Yeah. I think that's
so. It's like ransomware as a service, but the service refuses to go after Russia.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Are they state-sponsored? Who knows? But this at least points to a general continent that they're based in.
I think it reveals a lot. Like, if I had to guess what country they lived in,
or who they're scared of, or they're not messing with Putin, like.
Yeah, Nikki, what are your thoughts on this?
We spoke about ransomware as a service and what its implications are, and if it is being paid for by people with the cut going to, DarkSide, maybe it's one of those things that, like, they had a business model idea that is now overreaching. Now it's like not what they intended, because like I like how in their note there's like, we're not meaning to like disrupt society or anything like that. It's like, I don't know.
This has brought up an interesting debate that people have started to parse semantics, and that's one of my favorite things about whether or not this is a cyber attack, because cyber attack means potentially that the goal was to damage, and usually state-sponsored, and it evokes images of war and warfare. I completely disagree with that. I think that lots of wars have been started by going after companies, going after the economics of another country. You think of the Lusitania, right? Like there have been wars that have started over merchant ships being sunk. I don't see how that's any different from ransomware. What do you think about that, Shu?
There's the line between the cyber world and the physical world keeps getting pushed with these new attacks, and I completely agree. At what point? I mean, you heard some weird feedback. If
you're vibrating our phone here, let me put the phone on mute.
Okay. If you go back to, say, there's the old story about U.S. Sabotaging a Russian pipeline back in 1980. That was definitely a physical manifestation of a cyber attack. If you go into Stuxnet, that was a physical manifestation. And this is yet another attack. If you go to the Crane power plant attacks, that's another example. And we keep pushing the line, and you're right. I wonder at what point does something happen? Does something say, this line has gone too far? We've seen attacks that have tried to kill people. Luckily, thankfully, they were not successful. But is that the point where someone crosses the line?
Yeah, you think of warfare and economics, they've always been linked. You think of, there were those reports, confirmed or not confirmed, about the U.S. Just airdropping payloads of fake Iraqi dollars, right? During the war in Iraq, don't know which one, but devaluing the currency by introducing massive quantities of counterfeit money. It's an economic attack, but with real implications for ongoing warfare. They're always going to be linked, and ransomware may start off as a way to make money, but in this case, it shut down a major U.S. pipeline. And I think it's a really thin line between a private Russian hacker shutting down a U.S. pipeline and a state-sponsored Russian hacker shutting down a U.S. pipeline. And I don't think we understand what the fallout's going to be. I'm also, there's been this big recent debate about paying ransomware attacks. I think it's very impractical. I do not think it's practical to have a policy to not let people pay. You can either pay the ransom or you can shut down a major U.S. pipeline. In this case, we shut down a major U.S. pipeline. I think it's pretty scary that if the U.S. comes out and says you can't pay, right, because that's somehow sponsoring terrorism or something to that effect, what do these companies do?
Yeah, that's a good question. Whether or not, what's interesting, last week, I think in the UK, centered around the UK, they're creating a what do they call it, ransomware task force, and it's not only a government agency, but they have the US FBI is joining in, several large FANG companies are joining in, and their goal is to discuss issues like this, whether or not we pay, what else can we do to help victims and prevent this. Who knows what's going to happen? That policy of not paying may change, may not, but that task force is probably the most organized effort that we've seen from government and private sector in a while to see how we can combat and what official recommendations are for dealing with ransomware.
I mean, we've seen state governments, municipal governments that have paid. We've seen the same that have not. And I think that it depends on how bad the situation is. But if a company doesn't pay, that company may no longer exist, right? So yeah. I think it would be really hard. And it's not like the company wants to pay, right? Like if there's any alternative to paying the ransom, they would take it. So I think it's very counterproductive to make rules about, well, you can't pay it. Well, then I can't exist. And how am I supposed to go through and be a company and, support people and have jobs if, if one ransomware attack can just knock me out forever?
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Well, this one's clearly going to be developing. I do not expect this is the last time we're going to talk about this one. And with that, that's it.